Well, I get to have a great time interviewing someone I haven't had a chance to speak to in this forum before, and that would be MORIAH Peters Smallbone. She has new music, she has new passions, and we are in the middle of crazy pandemic world, MORIAH, and it's so awesome to get a chance to talk to you and find out some of the latest. So thanks for spending time with me.
Thank you for having me and my cat on your show.
Oh, look at what's your cat's name?
Adelina.
Adelina is a crazy, beautiful name. Holy cow. How did she come to that? You just call her Addie?
We call her Lena sometimes.
Lena. Adelina. She's busy. She's back there. That's awesome.
She's probably plotting
an attack.
Yes, yeah. She's not to be trusted. I always tell people that when they come to our house, I'm like, don't trust her, don't touch her. It's not.
That's pretty awesome, though. I don't have anything interesting. It's like that's my nerdy stuff. My comic books and stuff are up there.
You have a dinosaur.
My son made that when he was a kid. That's no one's asked me about that. That's funny. You're the first person to ever ask about the dinosaur.
It's really adorable. Is it the little tiny beads all put together? Yes, yeah. It is. Oh.
Isn't that funny? So this is from my son, who's now an adult and a real serious fella who would not be real fun. Know that I'm. So Jake Jones, I'm talking about you. You made this when you were a child, and I still have it. Here's the best part, Mariah. Look.
The
tail kind of move, and his little feet kind of move. And I've kept it this whole time. There he is.
Okay, that's the most adorable thing I have ever seen. I don't know how we carry on after that.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, he had to be like super little when he did this. I'd have to ask my wife for sure. I don't know the exact age.
He must be a genius because I can't imagine that would have been easy to put together.
I have no idea. I know I probably can't do it. So I'd say they're above my skill set. So.
Also, while we're talking about things in the room, I noticed you're using a Blue Yeti mic.
Yes.
My friend actually developed the software and the technology inside of that. So I have one too because he sent it to me before they came out. Like, look what I just made, and I was like, made?
That's super cool.
A Bluetooth or like a USB mic like this. It's amazing. He's so smart.
Yeah. I had done mostly radio studio stuff and didn't have to worry about that kind of equipment. And then I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to stream now. And I was like, well, and I just kind of went, okay. And I'm researching and that's the one. So there you go. Well, look at the world just continues to shrink and stuff. So
I will tell Sal that Brandon says that this is the best mic.
It is. I love this mic. And I love the fact that it came with like everything I need. I didn't have to buy a separate thing. It's got a little stand.
Yep.
And I just have to pop it out. I can move it around. I can put it on a tripod. I can put it on a desk stand. I can do whatever I want with it. It's just it's small. So I don't have to carry around some giant, it's like this little box.
Yeah.
It's just a little box. It's not some giant thing or.
For people who don't have visual reference, this mic is like the size of your hand. It's so great.
That's true. Yeah.
we're promoting like Blue microphone.
Yeah, the unsponsored supporters of my show, What's Your Story, brought to you unofficially by Blue Yeti.
By Sal.
Hey, listen, I'm okay with that. If he wants to send me an extra mic or a new one, I'll be more than happy to try it out. So.
Yeah, I love that.
We probably should talk about you. That would probably be why most people would want to spend time with me.
Or not. Imagine if this entire interview was just us talking about everything but.
Would they be mad that we did that? Because that's like how some of my live streams go. Like last night, I had stuff that came up at the day job, and I wasn't as prepared as I normally would be. And we spent like the last 20 or 25 minutes just randomly talking, like stuff we watch on YouTube and books we read. I didn't know what else to do. He didn't have much to say. We just chatted. So
chit-chatting and one thing just leads to the next, Brandon.
So okay, so let's do one serious segment. We gotta go a little bit. So talk a little bit about because I mean, obviously you have this great heritage that I know about, but share everybody a little bit about growing up, where you grew up and that kind of stuff, because that's kind of cool. I think diverse stories are very interesting. And then you ended up with this incredible journey to American Idol, which I know a lot about, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I were to pretend that you knew nothing and I was
Yeah, I
telling
don't.
you all of this,
MORIAH Peters, tell me about yourself, MORIAH.
I
Oh,
would
look,
start.
I can even do this to make more pressure. Watch.
Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh! Wow.
Well, that's your whole room.
That's the whole space. Yeah. This is actually the guest room to our house that we are moving out of. I packed up the last boxes yesterday, so I'm in like a sentimental mood, which is rare. So I would start with my name. I would say that my name is MORIAH, and that name was given to me by my mother. When she was pregnant with me, she had a vision of this like dark-skinned, curly-haired girl like running down the hallway, and she didn't even know if it, what kind of gender the baby was going to be yet. So, but she just knew that it was whatever the baby was coming out as, it was going to be MORIAH. So my name is Hebrew. It means God is my teacher. I used to hate my name. In grade school, I signed all of my papers Chloe Peters. I just loved the name Chloe. I thought it was so much cooler than MORIAH. I asked all my teachers and friends to call me Chloe. This is just like detail backstory that I feel like I don't ever get to share. So
You know what? That's cool. I didn't know the Chloe story, so that is super cool. I'm ready to like have like get carried away and like change your name because I can do that.
Shout out to anyone named Chloe, because that's a great name.
So I can just like totally give you a hard time and like change your name.
Look at yeah, do that. Maybe I should still have like the line over the O, because it's still a long O.
Put a little squiggly there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not mad at that. And when I put out my first record, it was MORIAH Peters, and then I got married in 2013, and then I took on my husband's last name, Smallbone, which, as you can imagine, was quite the transition. Wasn't used to having such an intriguing last name, and I was thankful that I didn't have that name while I went to a public school in LA, because the jokes would have been incessant. And so now, just to kind of keep things simple, I just go by MORIAH. I just go by my birth name, and I never thought that I would be a musician. I have friends who are, putting out music, and from the time that they were children, they just like dreamed about being on a stage. And I actually saw my friend post something. She was at her label today and like taking pictures, and she was like, ever since I was a little girl, like I always dreamed of doing this, like keep dreaming because dreams come true. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have taken that advice, I would be a lawyer by now. Like I just never pictured, I never dreamed that this would be my life, and I would never change it. I'm so thankful that I get to do what I do. I get to write, I get to create. I don't take it lightly. I take it as a responsibility. I treat it with as much diligence and structure as I would any other job, a profession in the legal field. That I have the same approach, because I think it deserves that. And I, while we're just kind of freewheeling and on the random thought train, I mentioned to my dad the other day, we were just driving to Kentucky for King and Country show. And we were talking about how my siblings and I are the first generation in our family who actually have the opportunity to work in the creative industry. There's a famous John Adams quote that I will do my best to attempt to convey. But if you really want to, hear the words, you should Google it, 'cause it's a great quote. But when he was with the French, and he had just, had the long journey from America, and he was trying to gain their sympathy and their support, they were irritated that he wasn't like enjoying going to the theater and to plays and, enjoying music. And he was stressed out and just wanted to talk politics. And when they kind of chastised him for it, he gave this beautiful monologue where he basically said, my great grandfather was a farmer so that my grandfather could be a businessman, and my father was a businessman so that I could be a politician, and I'm a politician so that my sons can be doctors and lawyers, and they will be doctors and lawyers so that their sons and daughters can be in the arts and musicians and in the theater. And so it was just this really beautiful way of looking at what it costs to be a creative and the sacrifice that leads to it. And it's no different in my family and in my story. You know, my grandparents immigrated, 3 of the 4 of them immigrated from Mexico. My grandfather was a musician in Mexico, a touring musician, and he gave that up to be a busboy in Texas, and then later ended up working at a Levi's facility in a factory. And so and then my dad was the judge, and so I just look at the generations and I just go, oh my gosh, like
You're living that out.
Yeah, like we stand on the shoulders of giants. And so I look at the cost of it, and often, and it makes me thankful. And I think creating from a place of gratitude is really life-giving. At least for me, it's been really important.
That's super deep. I felt the same way in some ways, because I was the first one in kind of like my immediate family that were able to go to college. And there was just this constant thing about going, this excitement that was always there. And it was kind of a turning point. And then being able to try to raise up kids that would want to. I always try to encourage them, but I never wanted to force them. And to see that too, and I take pride in the fact that they were able to, you know, do that and succeed and find paths for themselves, and now they're developing families. And I can relate. It's like one little twist, one little turn, follow a dream, and you're in a completely different path, career, whatever. But that's the God's will thing, I think, in a lot of ways too, and we can just submit ourselves to that, and that's easier said than done.
God doesn't draw in straight lines, which is
or we keep grabbing the wheel from him and driving it all over the road, because that was me. I just kept grabbing the wheel and driving all over the road. And he was like, well, I'll wait for you to come back. You'll be back, so I'll get you. So, what did your siblings do for a living? Just general professions?
My sister is a news anchor for Fox 5 New York. And then my brother is he's studying to be a dental hygienist.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Definitely a long way from the busboy roots and the sacrifices that were made generations ago. That's crazy. Yeah. Great story. Great story. You know, it's funny because I made allusions to the American Idol story. And of course, I'll never forget, because we were actually watching American Idol back then. We haven't watched American Idol in years. But I remember this story coming out about your experience, and you know, basically it was, you know, you need a little worldly, little girl. You can't really go in the music business until you get a little bit out there first. And it was kind of like, what? And then I've heard you share that a couple of times over the years. So give everybody a little rundown on what happened in your head a little bit. Like, for me, I always wonder, are you like, are they really saying this to me right now? Or is it more like was it hurtful? Was it the fact that they were looking at that and not your talent? What was going through your mind a little bit during some of that kind of stuff?
Well, that was so long ago. Sometimes it's hard to know what I was really feeling and thinking. I know now, looking back, they weren't wrong. I think my perspective's changed a little bit. I think they were right. And I think I did exactly what they encouraged me to do in a weird way. Like they were saying, like, you need more life experience. Like you're too green. You're too naive. And I think the only thing that, looking back, I could say, like, okay, yeah, I think maybe there's a difference there is, I don't think naivety is necessarily a bad thing. I think naivety can really help you risk and take those leaps of faith and like dive into things that are really scary. I mean, if I was not naive, if I knew what I was really getting myself into, I don't know that I would move to Tennessee from California at 17 years old, put my college scholarship on hold, you know, move away from family, live in people's houses out of a suitcase, and start touring at such a young age. Like I think naivety can be kind of a blessing, like a bit of a protector in it's something that gets you to free fall before you fly. You know, you need that kind of stupid blind faith, I think, sometimes to take big risks. And so I'm really glad that I did that. And I'm glad that I had naivety on my side so that I could do the things that were ridiculous and things that I would tell any 17-year-old to never do. So all that being said, I think they were right. You know, I had made a commitment at that stage of life to save my first kiss for my wedding day. And, you know, initially it started out as something that was really born out of fear. Like, in the world I grew up in, like, you start becoming sexually active in like 6th grade, 7th grade. And I had a lot of friends and a lot of family that got pregnant in high school. And I was just scared. Every guy I met, I was like, don't get me pregnant. That's like all I was thinking. And so that was sort of a self-protective way for me to navigate that, call it extreme, but it's, you know, you got to do what you got to do. And I think over time it became, especially when I met my now husband, when I met him, it became more of a commitment. And in a world where things are all about instant gratification, you know, it was really nice to have something that we could look forward to, and something where we could practice discipline, and we could practice the art of saying no when you want to say yes, which continues into marriage. You know, there's times where I want to yell and be angry and be upset, and, you know, you have that kind of that background of discipline of going, wait, but what's best for us as a couple? What's best for us in this partnership? And so, I don't know. I think it set us up well. I don't think it's for everybody. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but I think for us, it was really a special thing. And if it wasn't for auditioning for American Idol, and if it wasn't for that door being closed, I would never be here. And I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't have taken this really wild and wonderful journey as a musician and a writer.
Well, and that's what we should be talking about, right? Because it's exciting, right? Live from the Quarry. It's the new EP, some new songs, new adventure, writing yourself, producing. You're getting weird lights on yourself. What's going on over there? What's weird lights?
It's just Tennessee clouds.
Okay, man, that's a huge difference too, because you were really bright for a second there. I'm like, whoa. Okay, making sure. All right, so talk a little bit about this journey. I mean, we're in the middle of pandemic shutdown stuff, your personal journey and all of that. What led you to go down the journey of, I'm going to write my own, I'm going to kind of go a little more, because this is the first time you've really kind of done a lot more of it just yourself, right? A lot less reliance on others.
Yeah, I would say that was out of necessity. I have never considered myself to be a great songwriter, and it's why I think I avoided writing on my own for so many years. But at the top of 2020, I needed to try something other than what I had already been doing to find healing. And I had always believed that songwriting, you know, can be a form of therapy. And for the first time, I really, really needed therapy in that way. And so I planned a trip up to a cabin in the Smoky Mountains of Tennessee. And I was wanting to go by myself, and my sweet parents ended up coming with me. But they kind of just let me have my space, and before I left, my husband packed the back of the car with some gear. So a microphone, a MIDI controller, speakers, headphones, just the basics. And he had recorded a tutorial video on how to set it all up. And he sent me off saying, hey, I know that you just wanted to bring your guitar and just like record voice memos, but I think you really need to try producing again. And I think because I had tried years before and it just didn't click. And he said, I believe in you as a producer, as a songwriter, and I want you to have everything at your fingertips if you're brave enough to try that for a day. And so the first day I set it all up, and basically I haven't stopped producing, and it's become a whole other instrument, a whole other form of expression, a whole other way to communicate a feeling or a thought. There's rhythms that can make you feel like you're on the edge of something. There are sounds that can make you feel like you're going from your heart to your head, and you've got an elevated form of thinking. And I really feel like sound waves, not just lyrics, can really communicate so much. So I'm really thankful to be able to create in this space. And what's really exciting to me is that with just DAW systems and the way that recording is now, every single artist, man and woman, boy and girl, they have the autonomy and the capability to not just write songs, but to try to capture the sounds that they're hearing in their heads as well. I'm sure you're saying amazing things, Brandon, but you're on mute, and now I'll never know what you said.
I said amazing things. It was beautiful. It was poetic even. I had muted because I was coughing while you were talking. I didn't want to cough. Oh, no, I was agreeing with you that because of the technology, it just makes every aspect of creativity. There's just so many things that we're on like an exponential curve. It's like doing this stream. I mean, it was impossible. And then it was so complicated before. And then it was so expensive. It was like, and you had, it was like the closest thing you could get was, well, I'll rent radio studio time. Or, it was like to be independent, not have a boss, and not have, corporate overlords say no on this, no on that. I need you to do this. You suck up to this advertiser. Now it's like, yeah, I can do what I want to do and when I want to do it. And it's on every level. And to know that you can throw your recording gear in the back of a car and escape and just let it go. That's pretty amazing what can come out of that. And I would encourage people to take that as an inspiration, folks. If MORIAH's story, that's beautiful, because this is just these few songs that she's releasing at the end of the month. It's just the first wave. You know what I mean? This is I want to encourage you, and I wanted to know it does well, but it seems like that journey's step one. You're barely off the starting block of what you can experience, and you talk about your life experiences for so long. Think about how much of that you haven't even tapped into yet. Your thought processes and dwelling on things that you've experienced and gone through, your family may have gone through, and next thing you know, you've got inspirations for songs and melodies that that's awesome stuff. That's great. How did you shift from just doing the recording to do like a live thing? That's a different undertaking in and of itself.
Well, I'm a pretty analytical person, and kind of tentative to do most things, which again is why naivety is so important in my life. But I was pretty intimidated by the idea of taking songs that I had written by myself and produced by myself for the first time, and putting both of those things out at the same time, it just felt like too much vulnerability too soon. So I was like, okay, maybe just one of these things. Like, it's kind of like the other day we had a red carpet event for the Dove Awards, and it's like, I hate wearing dresses, I hate wearing high heels, I can't do both, so let me just do one. So I wore a dress and I wore sneakers, and I felt great. Same thing. It's like, I can't just show these songs that I've written them on my own and produce them at the same time. Let's just do one. So I ended up sending the original productions to a really wonderful friend of mine. We met at church. He was leading the band, and come to find out, he lives a couple streets behind me, and his wife is amazing, and we've become the best of friends. And so I asked him to MD for me. I sent him the demos, and so he put together a band who each musician that he brought together is a producer in their own right. So they were able to listen to the demos, listen to the productions, and then create their own interpretations of those parts. And so what you hear with the Live from the Quarry EP is a bunch of different people's interpretations of this like mysterious demo that may or may not ever be heard by everyone else. But I love these live versions. I love what they came up with. And funny backstory, two of the guys that were in the band for this performance, the drummer named Garrett Tyler and the bass player named Dilo, or Daniel Lopez, or as I call him, Papicito. They did an incredible job. And so when For King and Country started auditioning people to add some musicians to their band, their tapes came through, and it was so like, oh my gosh, these are the guys from the Quarry, and they crushed it, and they were so good. And so it was kind of a no-brainer. So they're in the For King and Country band now, which is really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, Joel was talking about expanding to that. Buying bongos at the last minute, which made me laugh because bongos. That's awesome. Anything that involves bongos is going to be fun for me. What is the process for you? Because I mean, there's like this weird, like last minute race. The EP will be available. You're doing some promotional stuff. You're probably also having your brain running through all those creative juices, because my experience is once we turn them on, they don't really shut off. How is that going in your little brain of brains? And
in my over analytical brain?
So, well, okay, let's back up on that. So how okay, so I have a formula that I'm X% OCD plus X% ADD. Where are you on that scale? Because I got a feeling you have a high proportion of both of those possibly as well.
I'm going to take that as a massive compliment.
It's meant to be. Because you sound so analytical. And I think when you break down a lot of our analytical minds, it's because, oh, wait a minute, because we have this constant flow, and then we also want this constant perfection and this tweaking, and it just never stops. Once you're in it, it's almost like going in a river. It's like you just can't stop. It just keeps going.
Yeah. I mean, I think we all have a natural dose of either creativity or call it type A organization, from the beginning of our lives. And then our experiences really help shape and integrate us. I would say I am a bit of both. Like I enjoy creating, but I enjoy structure. I enjoy clarity. I enjoy input equaling output. Like math was my favorite subject because it's like black and white, yes or no. It's like you got it right or you got it wrong. And sometimes creativity can be, take writing, for example. Like even go back to your school days. It's like, I wrote an essay and I'm not sure if I'm doing this right, or if there's so much left to interpretation. So I think what I've really enjoyed, not just experiencing, but almost putting pen to paper in the last few years, is that bridge that exists between creativity and business acumen. I just graduated, I should say class of 2020, but because of 2020, I just had my graduation ceremony this year. But
well, congratulations.
Thank you, and my degree is in organizational leadership, and there's an emphasis on marketing, and it's from the School of Professional Studies at Lipscomb University. So everything was geared towards how do you take the lifestyle of a musician and validate and commend those skills that we learn in a very nebulous world, put them in black and white, and then refine. And so I helped kind of test the beta version of this program and helped kind of give feedback and refine so that other artists can walk through the same program. But I think one of the big maybe the common misconceptions that we were able to deconstruct is this idea that artists are not academics, and that if you're creative, you are not welcome in an academic space, and that you can't bring, or there's nothing you can offer to that space. I don't think that's true. I think that bridge between the two worlds is really short, and there's a lot of crossover. And so also another thing is like, I don't buy this idea that marketing and branding are like bad conversations and that we shouldn't be talking about it in any ministry spaces. I think there's this kind of stereotype that marketing is manipulation, and that branding is just a distraction from what really matters, but it's all a form of communication.
Yes.
And I think that some of the greatest, faith leaders who have impacted this world for the kingdom have had a really wonderful understanding of both the power of words and content and how to communicate those words. It's not enough to just have a good story. You have to tell a great story about the story.
Yeah, and if you don't understand that you're competing against that type of marketing and branding, then you're not going to be able to get heard. You're just drowned out. So you kind of have to at least start to understand some of it. I think that's why so many churches have shifted, and you see renaming and rebranding and different things kind of across the spectrum there. And that goes across everything. But man, it's cool to see, man, you have really jumped out into two different forays of independent songwriter / producer, and also marketing and branding, and you've become your own independent entrepreneur, and like exponentially like more than you were before. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah. I think we all are. I think we all have the potential to have ownership over our art, and it takes a lot of faith, and it takes a lot of, I think, pain and failure. I think God uses those things to remind us that we need people. We need to lean on the people around us. I wouldn't be doing any of what I'm doing if it wasn't for the encouragement of my family, of my husband, my manager. My grandparents were my sole motivation for finishing school. There was nothing in me that wanted to get a degree, but I was so determined to give them my diploma and say thank you. And my husband and my manager have both really, really encouraged me, and I've had to borrow their belief in times where I'm faced with something that I don't think I'm capable of doing. So I'm just thankful for the team that's around me.
That's awesome. And you didn't even mention, and I'd be remiss with all of my pop culture and movie review work, that you now have got an interesting role. You've already done one role, but now you're going to be in a Reagan biopic that drops next year with really an all-star cast. I mean, Dennis Quaid, he's a beast. I mean, it's just to know that you're going to do a Ronald Reagan biopic. And do you get to sing? I'm not sure what you're allowed to tell me and not. So actually, we get to see you sing, right? You're not just going to be, hey, she's there and she's pretending to sing or whatever. You get to sing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a secret. There's been press about it, but I played the role of a singer back in those kind of big band music eras, and you probably wouldn't recognize me.
Oh, awesome! That's even more exciting.
Which is fun. And I get to sing a song that my grandfather actually knows, which is funny because he doesn't speak very much English. And the song is in, oh gosh, I mean, I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I think it was Polish or like German, or it was a really interesting song. I mean, I had to really get those pronunciations as close as I could.
Right.
But I just saw a rough cut of it. I went to the producer's theater in LA when I was there with my husband, and we watched an early cut, and we both got emotional by the end. I mean, it was really, really a wonderful, not only a wonderful story, but a wonderfully told story. And there's so much about Reagan's life that I had no idea happened. So it was an inspiring story.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, and Sean McNamara has done great work. I mean, it's just a credit to him that he gets such a great opportunity and take on a challenge like this. I think it was about 2 years ago or 3. I read like 3 biographies, and I was just blown away. I mean, just I knew nothing. I knew like this little piddly, the whole the backstory after being married to his first wife and this big gap in his life. I knew none of that really, and yeah, good stuff. Very exciting time, and exciting for you. That's really kind of a cool experience. I'm sure you'd have any fun stories. Anything happen on set that I can? Anything funny? any weird quirk or anything I can?
I don't know if this is funny as much as it's just
interesting, maybe.
Yeah, surprising. I guess I'm first and foremost a musician, so the whole acting world, even though I've been in now a couple films, it's still everything's surprising to me. Like the things that are normal and kind of every day are still like, oh, that's interesting. And so even though I'm just in one scene, I mean, I had to be there for a week on set in Oklahoma, and we were staying they had several different locations where the different cast members were staying, but I was staying in the same space that Dennis was staying. And it's this it's like a boutique hotel that used to be an orphanage.
Oh,
and I know it sounds a little haunted. I don't think it was haunted, hopefully not. But there was like I don't know what you would call it, a mess hall or an auditorium where the orphans would have their lunches, and it basically looked like a school cafeteria. And it had this beautiful grand piano in the corner. And so each night after I would finish either my rehearsals or wardrobe set, any of that stuff, I was in the midst of recording a couple of demos and then also some vocals for another producer. And so I would go into this room because it was so grand and beautiful, and I would record on my Blue Yeti mic. I would record my vocals and different sounds. That's the one. And
that's so awesome.
It's so cool. And then one night I had wrapped pretty late, and then the next morning one of the staff was like, "We heard you playing piano last night. That was so beautiful." And I was like, "Oh, I don't play piano." I really do not play piano. I mean, at all. I play guitar, but just I look at a piano and it's like everything is symbols. I don't understand it. And they were like, "No, you were in there like at midnight, right?" And I was like, "Midnight?" I mean, that's when I went up to my room and I was like, "This place is haunted. I know there are some orphan ghosts up in here playing that piano." I was so scared. Turns out it was Dennis Quaid.
The midnight performance.
as soon as I was going up to my room, he was coming down, and he would take over that room, and he would play. But he was a night owl. He'd be playing from like midnight to 2 a.m. And he's actually a really brilliant pianist. So yeah, that was just a funny, like, I'm like, oh,
you're getting credit for Dennis's work. So what I hear.
Yeah. I was not going to take that.
That is so funny. You have glossed over a lot of life experiences and people that have influenced you. I always do it. I have a section that I call life lessons. Is there a person or a life lesson that you can really cite that you'd share with folks to go, listen, this is something that I learned, and if I can speed up you getting your head around this, it's really, really going to help you? Heavy, I know. Hence the point.
It's a toss-up between a Cheetah Girls quote and a friend that gave a great quote.
Hey, you can throw 2 or 3. I am good. It's just life lessons. It's a plural, and it's a multiple playlist of things.
Okay. I've never said this quote on any like online public forum ever.
Oh, boy.
I'm gonna give you 2. I'm gonna give you one that I've like never said before, and the other one where it's like my go-to. The first one that came to mind for some reason is, are you familiar with the movie The Cheetah Girls?
I know of it. I mean, obviously, I'm not like, a binge watcher of Cheetah Girl movies. So
that wouldn't have surprised me if you were. It's a great film.
Yeah, it would surprise you.
So Whitney Houston was one of the producers on it. It's a Disney film about these girls who come together, form a band, and like dress in cheetah print, but they all come from these different worlds and these different backgrounds, and they come together and they find harmony in music. And it's a really, I'm obsessed with Cheetah Girls. And there's this quote in the middle of the first film, because there's 3. And in the first one, there's this guy who's like really chasing after the main girl, played by Raven, and he's kind of being competitive with her because he's like a rapper and she's an artist, and they're both competing in this like school competition. And her friends are egging her on, like, oh my gosh, he's so cute, why don't you go out with him? And he's like, girl, if he can't respect my art, he can't have my heart.
Ooh. Wow, that's some good stuff.
That quote gets me all day long.
That is so some good
There are actually
stuff.
so many great life quotes that I think I took from that film as a kid, because I watched it in the last few years again with some friends, and there were so many things like, MORIAH, that's you. MORIAH, you're Raven. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I became this character, but in real life. So that's the first one. The second one that comes to mind is a quote from a friend that I actually went to Israel with, and she works in politics, and she was actually trying to recruit me to work in politics. I was like, I don't think I'm going to do that. But she said, people cannot be what they cannot see. And in a time where we're living in a super visual culture, where everything is visible, and people project different stories and push different stories out to different people, I think it's really important to remember that we emulate who we watch. I mean, I even thinking about the Cheetah Girls reference, it's like, I think subconsciously there was something in me that took this fictional story and went, maybe this could be real life. And for anyone who's in a position right now where maybe there's some opportunity in front of you where you're afraid to step into it because you feel like you're the only one, you feel like no one looks like you, talks like you, thinks like you, votes like you, believes the same thing that you do, I would say that's the very reason why you should step forward. Because if you do not represent the unique story that God has given you, who else will? And think about the people that you'll be able to reach and connect with that wouldn't have connected with you otherwise. I mean, crazy timing to even think of this quote, because last night we had dinner with some wonderful friends. There's an artist named Dante who's just a brilliant guy, and his girlfriend. And so we were out to dinner with them, and he's going to be opening for King and Country on their tour next year. And he told this story that For King and Country is the first like Christian band that him and his friends ever listened to and got into, and it was because they had a song with an artist named KB, and
Yep.
this song is called
He's down here from my neck of woods.
Yes, we love KB. We love KB. For King Country's played more shows with KB than any other artist. And he's just brilliant. But like in the name of you can't be what you can't see, it's like Dante needed to see there's someone who looks like me, who actually is representative of my experience. And so maybe there's space for me there. And think about all like the impact that now both KB and Dante are having on this industry. It's so exciting to me. So I think the more that people can step into spaces where they are not properly represented, the better. Take that step forward.
So it's really one life lesson that's an amalgam of both that we could sum up and call MORIAH's advice is be a cheetah girl. Be a cheetah girl. Okay.
I was just a little girl. My mama used to tuck me into bed and she'd read me a story. Okay, I gotta sing you the bridge. I can slay my own dragons. I can dream. I got the floor. My own dreams. My knight in shining armor is me. Here we go. So I'm gonna set me free, yeah. Oh my gosh, I could sing that whole song. You know there's a line about equal pay in that song? I mean, that song was ahead of its time.
It really is an older. I didn't realize it was from 2003.
I know. See, you think
I'm like, what on earth? Has it really been 2003? Really?
You think this is a joke, but it's not.
No. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant that I'm not the target audience. Okay, I'm just trying to be honest. I'm not the target audience. If we were here in like my youngest daughter, you know, she's 19. She knows of Cheetah Girls, I'm certain. Actually, I have three daughters that are, you know, so yeah, they probably know Cheetah Girls. And it's on Disney Plus. I mean, this is not like something that's real obscure. So I'm sure.
Do me a favor. When you talk to your daughter, who is most likely to know what Cheetah Girls is, I want you to do this. I want you to go up to her and I want you to do this.
Okay.
You're not looking. You have to.
No, I'm going to pull it up. Hold on.
Okay. So you got to do this.
I'm going to take a picture. Hang on.
Do this and say hashtag growl power.
Growl power right here. Oh, put it back up. I want to make sure I get a good one. I want to text her, see if she answers me right away because she's not feeling good. So she may answer right away.
This will be the pick me up that she needs.
That's great.
Growl power.
Growl power. Okay, let's see if she answers right away. MORIAH says. Hashtag?
Hashtag growl power. Secondary hashtag could be Cheetah-licious. I mean, it's
growl power.
Cheetah-licious if you're really trying to help her out.
Okay.
She's gonna be like, Dad, what are you
Dad, you should never say these things, Dad. Like, why would you do that? That's so funny.
Oh, I love it.
I'm gonna text my oldest daughter because my oldest daughter is like, she's super nerdy like I am. So I know she's watched Cheetah Girls probably like 20 times.
Probably.
Yeah.
Cheetah Girls Goes to Spain is like her favorite version, I'm sure.
It's possible. I don't know. I'm gonna have to watch Cheetah Girl. If I knew that I should have prepped, I would have watched it yesterday. So I would.
Oh my gosh!
Because I can't remember the last time that I've watched these movies. I watched them when they were on, and so it's been a minute, obviously. So instead, I'm watching all these new shows and movies that are terrible. So yeah. Okay, so let's. Every topic is so serious. I don't want to go serious after all this. This is way more fun than like all this normal what's your story stuff, because it's just, yeah, we've done enough serious.
You can shoot me any question and we'll make it interesting.
That's true. Oh, the picture didn't go. That's why she's like, what? And then the picture didn't go too. So she's like, why are you telling me Cheetah-licious, Dad? Like, it's like, what? From Cheetah Girls, honey. From Cheetah Girls. That's so funny. You know, this is really must see YouTube streaming whenever I'm texting during an interview with MORIAH that I've never talked to before. So your handlers will be like, well, that was fruitful. We talked about the cat. We talked about his toy dinosaur and Cheetah-licious. So yeah. Okay.
How? You're doing a great job.
Okay, yeah, she texts back. She goes, "She is so cute," and I see now. Laugh out loud, and there's a bunch of emoji faces or whatever.
I see now. Oh, she knows. She gets it.
Yeah. Oh, she got it once the photo went through because you were doing the thing. So until then, she was like, "Dad, what do you talking?" Because the photo, they did an explanation point. It took a minute for it to.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
We moved into the woods, so part of it is her problem because she lives in the woods. I'm in town right now with work, and we moved away during the pandemic, which was a lot of fun too. That's that's an experience, life experience. So are you selling your house? You're leaving? What are you doing?
We're moving to the woods.
Are you moving to the woods too?
We're moving to the woods.
You are so funny. I'm not kidding. I moved 5 counties away. I moved into the woods. Like, not people say I moved to the country. No, the state owns the property behind us. Like, we're in the woods, like where there's like wild deer and turkey on the property. Yeah. Cool. Cool. You still staying in Tennessee, the Great White North, where it's going to be cold half the time and beautiful and.
Yeah, awesome. We're in Tennessee. We love it here. I miss California some days, especially when it's rainy like it is right now. But I love it here too.
That's wonderful. You'll have to look us up when you come to Florida. I always tell him, I said, let us know when you're at get a minute to unwind. But I'm sure you don't want to spend time with press people.
But I do make trips to Florida often because I'm a major Harry Potter fan. And
Universal's rocks, man.
And Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah. Galaxy's Edge is good, and I am a master.
I saw that. That was really good. Tell me, have you rode? I don't know which is the proper past tense form of ride. Have you ridden the what's it called? Rise of the Resistance?
Yes. Yeah, it's really, really cool. Really, really cool.
Is it the same in Florida as it is in California?
I haven't ridden the one in California. I don't know. I would have no frame of reference. I would think so.
I just rode it for my birthday, and we got halfway through the ride, and I was like, just tears.
Wow. Tears of joy.
Tears of like awe and majesty and magic and just feeling unworthy.
Pure escapism
on that ride. I'm like, just take my money. Take all my money.
I know. So I got to go early when Galaxy's Edge first opened, and my wife and I were by ourselves, which makes it even more special because you can really, really immerse yourself.
Yes.
And I went up the stairs for the first time and looked down and saw the full-size Millennium Falcon for the first time, and I literally just froze in place, like a 7-year-old all over again, reliving Star Wars for the first time all over again. And I don't think I moved for like 30 seconds. I literally stood there, and she's like kind of looked at me funny, and I'm like in awe, like I'm actually looking at the ship. I never thought in my life. I've seen Star Wars Celebration where you see X-Wings and things like I am super nerdy right now. I'm spending my time with MORIAH talking about
Show your nerd.
But I will say, like, my wife is not into these things, but like yourself, when we went to Universal the first time, and we went into Harry Potter, she stopped and she was blown away. And I have to admit, I'm a little critical of Disney because Universal raised the bar so high. They can do better. Stay at it, Disney. You still have work to do because Harry Potter is pretty cool. Well, that's awesome. I would definitely do Universal with y'all. That would be super cool because Universal is probably my favorite. I remember going when I remember going when it first opened and everything would break and they'd give me a free pass to come back. I was a poor college kid. We would all go, and you would go, and there were rides back then. Jaws was a ride. King Kong was a ride. Earthquake was a ride.
Yeah.
There was another one that would break. So if you were on any of those and they broke, you just go get a voucher, and you get another free pass to come back.
Yeah.
And these broke all the time. So as a poor college kid, we were at Universal like every few weeks because they couldn't get anything. Yeah, it was awesome. It's a shame that so many of those are gone now. Yeah. You should. Do you guys are they doing the Night of Joy thing or whatever they're doing now? Theirs is not called that. Theirs is called Rock the Universe. Do Rock the Universe. We'll do it then.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I know in the past we've both done the Disney one. I don't know if they're scheduled for the Universal one, but I'd do it in a heartbeat.
That is so fun. It's so great too, because once they close and you're there at night like that, there's nobody there. You can just ride these things endlessly. Do you just ride with regular fans, or they make you have handlers and stuff so that you don't get bothered too much?
Handlers?
I don't know what to call it. What do you call it? Like an escort or something? I mean, otherwise it seems like if you're there, everyone's going to be in an event like that knows who you are. So it's not like you can just, I don't know, peacefully enjoy the experience without having people try to interrupt.
I mean, because there's such time restrictions, like it's like, you know, you're sound checking and then you have time to ride a ride and then you have to go back and for the performance, it's like they do have people help with like getting you to the front of the line, which is like amazing. I felt like royalty, but on the day-to-day, we actually, this sounds weird, but we actually enjoy standing in lines. It's one of the few times in life where you, at least for us with how fast-paced our lives are, it's like the few times that you can just stand and do nothing and wait.
So what do you guys, so besides Cheetah Girls, I'm not sure, how many times have you made Joel watch Cheetah Girls?
He's seen the first one, top to bottom. It was mandatory. It was not optional.
Well, yeah, he wouldn't be able to. Yeah, got it. So, what is okay? All right, we'll wrap up. It's semi-serious, so it sounds more serious than it is. Sure. I always ask for a 5-10 story, and everyone goes, "What?" And I'm like, "Okay, so 5-10 is my anniversary." So I've been married over 20 years. So I always ask, I refer to it. And you know, the best part is I recently told my wife and she went, "What? What's a 5-10 story?" And I'm like, and then it clicked. It took like, I'm like, seriously, you're not watching my show enough to even, maybe I haven't done enough 5-10. So I always ask for a marriage story, a meeting, anything. It can be funny, it can be serious, whatever. We'll throw a 5-10 story out there for me. Throw me something that's
a 5-10 or an
marriage related. It can be advice. It can just be funny. It can be whatever. Because people don't care. It's just fun. It's great. It makes the world so much smaller to realize that we're all in this together. We all experience similar problems, because that is pretty much what my marriage counseling and advice usually boils down to.
I mean, you say people don't care. I think your people care a lot.
Okay, well, you know what I meant. I meant like they don't have a preference between funny and serious. They don't have a preference. They'll take both.
I'm joking.
They'll take both.
Okay, so in my case, it would be a 7/7 story because our wedding was on 7/7/13. Gosh, well, there's so many stories about. I feel like the theme of our story has been like me being scared and him like pushing me to do something, or like me, you know, being afraid and him believing that I, you know, can face my fears.
But that's such a great reflection of the yin and yang and partnership that you have to have. So that's so awesome.
The yin and yang. I don't know if you can see my fingernails, but
I do now. That's awesome.
That is the yin and yang. Now I can do hashtag
the cheetah and yin and yang. It so all comes back together.
All there. Well, we did tell this story last night to our friends Dante and Bouquet, and I think it was particularly helpful, just for people who are struggling with taking that next step, because I feel like if you are an hour into this conversation, you probably can relate to the over analytical mind. So I'd say for anybody who's in that particular scenario, this might resonate with you. When Joel and I got engaged, I was not expecting it, so much so that when we walked into the space where he was proposing, which is the same spot that we met, there was like a rose petal pathway and like candles, and he's walking me down this pathway, and all I'm thinking is, oh my gosh, somebody must be getting engaged here today. And I'm like trying to dodge the flowers. I'm like, Joel, like we can't mess up this pathway for whoever's about to get engaged here. Like we gotta go, like let's go. And it, you know, eventually sunk in. I caught on, thank God. You know, I was just so nervous and so afraid about it all. You know, he was my first boyfriend, first person I had ever dated. I met him when I was 17. We got engaged when I was like barely 20. So it was all very fresh and very overwhelming and very new. And so he asked me to marry him. I was still in such shock. I could only muster up the words, okay. I should say word, because that's one word, unless you're using letters, in which case 2 letters. But I mean, all I said was okay. I didn't even say yes, I do, or like absolutely, or do what girls do on YouTube where they're like,
Right.
yes.
MORIAH just froze and just said, okay.
Yeah, I was like Brandon seeing the Millennium Falcon for the first time. I was shook, and I was just mute. And so when we got to the restaurant that he had booked for all of our family to come, and he asked my parents and my siblings to come in from California. We were sitting outside of the restaurant, and he knew he couldn't afford to do any more surprises, because on the car ride there, I didn't say a single word. Like, I was just like, and so we sat down, and I thought this was really just looking back, it's such a sign of his character that he took the time to pause and give me a chance to change my mind. He actually said, like, hey, we don't have to do this. Like, all your family's up there right now. Once we go up there, it's like, we're in this. So if you're not feeling like this is the right thing, like, let's take a step back. And I was just like, sure. Oh my gosh. And so the thing that really helped me move forward in that moment, and has continuously helped me move forward in things that are really good and really scary, was this. And I shared this with Joel. I said, there is a difference between doubt and fear.
Wow.
I have no doubt in my mind that we are supposed to spend the rest of our lives together, but I'm still afraid. Are you okay to walk through my fears with me? And will you be okay to do that for a very long time if I'm to continue doing things that scare me? And he said yes. So it was kind of fun, because I think in a way, like, he proposed to me, but then right after that, I proposed an idea to him. It's
like an addendum or an amendment.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I got your proposal, and I say okay. But let me put a couple caveats here real quick. Make sure that you're okay. And if he says I do, and I'm like, okay, I do too. We can go on now. Resume the drive.
I'm just glad the man had enough strength and endurance and patience to deal with all of that and all of this.
That is so awesome, though.
Yeah, for anyone who's facing something scary in life, I think it's a helpful discrepancy to know, is this something that God is calling me to do, and I'm just really scared to do it? Or is this something that I have doubt as to whether or not this is the right thing in my life?
Right. And I always try to encourage folks, like, this journey, you're not, the hardest part is telling people when they have to get out of a relationship. It's like, well, what are you dating for? Are you dating for marriage, or are you just dating for the sake of having something to do or to have someone with? Because they're not the same thing. And if you're dating to marry, then in the back of your mind, you should always be processing, this is a journey. And to know that you guys had, even in that moment, a brief pause to sort of pour concrete on that commitment to say, I'm good. If you're good, I'm good. Let me talk this through with you, and let's carry on. That's awesome. And he's still doing it. Like you were just talking about this in the beginning of the thing. We're talking about the music and all that. It was him packing your car and saying, no, you can do it. You can overcome whatever issues you're carrying around, MORIAH. You got it. God's got you. You got it. I believe in you. So that's good. That's great. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. That's awesome. I should let you go. You probably have another thing to do. I mean, I've taken up an hour of your time. So awesome.
This has actually been a great, speaking of pauses, this has been a great break to my, just packing up my life into boxes and having moments of being overwhelmed by all the nostalgia. This is great.
Yeah, my life's like a whirlwind, and I cherish my Watch Your Story interviews, because they definitely are so, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. Like it was so long, and every time what was happening is during this time, and I couldn't do it, and there were issues that were beyond my control, and there were some issues that were me. anytime I'd be in a church, it wasn't even my church. I could go to a church and I would just know I got to be right back doing exactly what I'm doing with you, lady. I don't even know. And I always tell them, because I have to make clips out of it, because that's what YouTube needs you to do, because people don't watch things for 67 minutes until they love you to death. But they'll watch clips of MORIAH talking about her okay response to her proposal. And they'll talk about Cheetah Girls, because it was awesome. And then there's Kitty.
Speaking of Cheetah Girls.
Look at it. She actually looks like it too. I think it's a beautiful calico. She's beautiful. That's so awesome. Oh, there she goes. Meow. 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 That's so fun. Do you have a lot of animals or just the one cat?
Just my cat, and I have a dog. I have a Great Dane.
Oh yes, I saw him. Her What is don't
Meriwether.
Meriwether. Oh.
Yeah.
And I knew that going into the interview with Joel, and it left as fast as it came. Because he did an interview with Meriwether in the background, and it made me laugh. He was in the car. He's in the car with Meriwether in the background, and I'm just laughing the whole time. I had to watch it twice because I wasn't quite sure I listened to anything he was saying, because she'd move around and whatever. So awesome. Yeah, I have a farm full of animals, so I couldn't even imagine having them in the background of things. It would just be insane. Yeah, so many things. So, MORIAH, it's been fun.
It has been
fun. I'll put links and everything in there. Everybody can follow all the likes and buttons and bells and whistles and likes and subscribes and links to MORIAH stuff, because it comes out officially at the end of the month, and tons of stuff to see and listen to this time. Not just listen to, see and listen, which is so awesome. Proud of you. That's so awesome. What a journey you've been on. That's so exciting. I get excited for people. And it's an exciting story you're on. I'm very much grateful that you were able to share it with me and folks that watch our show.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the questions and the conversation and making it feel like we could just talk about anything.